former President Donald Trump's ex-wife, Ivana, who passed away suddenly at her home in New York as a result of an accident, which is not at all suspicious, was laid to rest at her ex-husband's Bedminster golf resort. Her grave apparently lies in the first hole of the course. So hole number one for wife number one. So look, let's take a look. Okay, there's some images here. So that's her plot. Okay, all right. So let's get a different image in here. So look, that seems a bit Spartan for somebody who was married to an alleged billionaire. But, you know, maybe, hey, look, the family, maybe they just wanted to keep it simple. You know what I'm saying? Keep it simple, keep it small, a little bit of a tiny plaque, you know, no inscription. Or maybe they're just cheap. But it gets worse. It gets worse than just burying her on the golf course in a very simple plot, again, which you could just be like, well, look, that's not classy, it's cheap. No, it actually looks like they might be trying to make money off her corpse. Tweeting on Sunday, Dartmouth professor of sociology Brooke Harrington took a look at some tax credits in New Jersey that she thinks that Donald Trump and his Bedminster course could end up receiving as a result of burying Ivana on the property. Now, that is, of course, dependent on if he is able to claim Bedminster as a cemetery. Now, according to the New Jersey website, a cemetery company is defined as this: an individual, corporation, partnership, association, or other public or private entity which owns, operates, controls, or manages land in places used to dedicate for use to burial of human remains or disposition of cremated human remains, including a crematory located on dedicated cemetery property. Now, so she's there, and you could say, look, he dedicated that plot near the first hole. So what, does that mean that he could declare Bedminster a cemetery? I don't know. That's what concerns me. Now, the state, by the way, has absolutely no stipulation regarding a minimum number of corpses necessary for you to get tax breaks. Theoretically, Ivana's burial could be enough to relieve the Trumps of certain tax forms of taxes. In fact, here's what the New Jersey website says on that. The act relieves cemetery companies from the payment of real property taxes on lands dedicated to cemetery purposes, income taxes, and sales and use taxes. Now, look, Bedminster, I don't know if you know this, but it's a golf course, not a cemetery. I'm just saying. And by the way, they cremated her remains, so there's no reason to put a plot there. Look, I don't even know if he's going to get any of these tax breaks, but would anybody be surprised if he was trying to do so anyway? Now, it is important to note that it wasn't Donald Trump that made the decision to have her burial plot in Bedminster. No, this was Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric. They had the power to decide where she was buried, but to me that seems like a little bit of a moot point, considering how this really seems like the very kind of harebrained tax avoidance scheme the Trump family would attempt. Really. And it's because they're scammers. The family, Donald, Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric, they got in trouble because Trump used charitable assets to pay off legal obligations, promote his hotels, buy personal items, and support his presidential campaign. While Eric, who ran a foundation for cancer kids, is under scrutiny for some of the handling of funds. Trump also ran a fake college and had been investigated for allegedly inflating his assets for loans and then deflating them when it comes to taxes. Unfortunately, the investigation into that headed by the Southern District of New York, was dropped by Cyrus Vance Jr., who, according to prosecutors that worked on that case, had him dead to rights on charges of tax fraud, but decided, I'm going to drop it. Not interested. So that said, with all the history of scams that the Trump family has run, is trying to avoid taxes using your dead ex-wife slash, or mother in the case of the kids, does that seem all that out of character for the Trump family? I don't think so.